Hello everyone, my name is Zenitsu and I'm back with another Digimon video. So today I'm going to be covering my Special Booster 2.0 pre-release guide. So while technically this isn't really a pre-release, at least Bandai's not calling it a pre-release, they're calling it a celebration event. For all intents and purposes, it basically is a pre-release. The only difference is it's just going to last longer than your normal pre-release, which is cool because it just gives more people the opportunity to play in this style of event. And as far as when this event is going to take place, it's going to last from October 25th all the way through November 8th, which is going to be 1 week before and 1 week after the set's initial release, which is slated to come out on November 1st of 2024. So what are we actually going to be expecting out of this type of event? Well, as I kind of already said, it is a pre-release event. So we're going to be getting a promo card just for participating, and we're going to be getting our pre-release pack, except this time it's just called a celebration pack, but it's just a pre-release pack for this set more specifically. So the entry prize in terms of promo is going to be the secret rare EX1 version of Digimon, which does have a couple of versions, so it's not like it's the most expensive card, but it's still a decent card nonetheless to have and to have extra of. And as far as the difference between this pre-release pack and the others, well, you're still going to be getting one foil stamped common and one foil stamped rare. And this is going to be of any uncommon or rare that's found in Special Booster 2.0, which is a larger set, so there's more possible cards compared to your usual pre-release pack. In terms of what you're actually going to be getting if you win this event, it is just like last time a nice foiled version of the entry promo, which again is the EX1 secret rare Digimon. And then any additional prizing is up to the store if they want to do anything on top of that. So when it comes to sealed events, because that's the type of format that you play in pre-releases, there's a couple of things they actually have to keep in mind for that type of environment. First, you're going to be building a 40-card deck compared to the 50-card deck that you usually build when it comes to normal constructed play. Players also in this type of event can ignore Digivolution color requirements, but they still have to meet level and cost requirements. Colors also can be ignored for DNA Digivolutions, however, any other special Digivolution conditions, such as name, level, and trait, must be met. Colors also still matter when it comes to cards asking for specific colors in their effects, and you can't ignore that. Then, when it comes to options, you still also need to meet the color requirements of the options, on top of the fact that you do have some additional usage with your breeding or raising area, because during the breeding or raising phase, you could choose to raise a level 3 Digimon if you don't have any Digi-Eggs left in your raising or breeding area. Which is cool, even though you don't get the draw for this, it just gives you more ways to be able to have access at that zone, so that way it's still somewhat usable. Then, when it comes to looking at a set, you should usually focus on the lower rarity cards. So, understanding how a booster box works in terms of its pull rates is going to help determine the odds of seeing specific cards, and that can ultimately help impact what cards you want to try to put your focus on in terms of your overall evaluation. But ultimately, what you pull is going to determine what you're able to play with. So in a normal booster box, we usually have pull rates where on average you'll see 7 SRs per booster box and 2 hits, a hit being either a secret rare or an alt art. With this set being, well, special, it's actually following some different ratios because it actually needs different ratios, otherwise the cards will be too hard to pull on, and that would not make for an enjoyable experience. So this being a larger set, Bandai actually upped the amount of super rares that you're going to get per box from 7 to 10, and they also upped the amount of hits per box from 2 to 3 to possibly 4, which is really good because it increases the overall chance of us actually seeing high rarity cards, but that kind of balances out because even though we're going to see them more, you still can't try to bank on seeing any particular super rare when it comes to how you want to try to construct your deck. And with larger sets like this, it also is going to have an impact on lower rarity cards, because that means you'll end up seeing less duplicates overall. But because there is a higher amount of synergy when it comes to the archetypes that the set is based around, it kind of balances out to where it should still be okay when it comes to being able to try to play with as many cards as possible. So in terms of the actual set breakdown, Special Booster 2.0, as I kind of mentioned, is not a normal set. You could see, based on the set breakdown, that it is combining both BT18 and half of BT19, and it's about 50% larger than your average set. And if you're wondering what does an average set's breakdown actually look like, well, this is kind of what your usual set breakdown generally looks like. So when it comes to actually building your deck, you have to remember that it is a 40 card deck that you're going to be building and constructing out of the cards that you pulled, and the extra cards basically become your sideboard. So as far as what the ratios for a good constructed deck looks like when it comes to a more stack-based traditional style of building, well, here is just my simple breakdown. So when it comes to the level 2s, you're just going to play with what you got. Sometimes you'll have a good amount, sometimes you won't have any. It just really depends on what you pull when it comes to the level 2s. The level 3s, you're usually going to want to try to shoot for at least 12 of them. The level 4s, you're going to want to try to shoot for at least 10. The level 5s, you're going to want to try to shoot for at least 7. The level 6s, you're going to want to try to shoot for at least 5. And then you have 6 cards in terms of other things that you can run, like Tamers, options, or just more Digimon of any given level. So when it comes to the rookies, sometimes you just also have to play with whatever you have, and you have to try to adjust your ratios accordingly based on the level 3s and 4s that you end up seeing, but that varies from set to set. So not every set is going to support playing decks of the style, especially this set being more focused around hybrids. Costs might be a little bit more expensive, and we do also have lots of Tamers to try to help offset rookies. So it's going to be a really interesting environment in terms of how decks are going to be constructed compared to other pre-releases. So when it comes to overall card analysis, there is an acronym that I kind of lifted from Magic the Gathering called BREAD in terms of helping you categorize and break down what a card's role is so you can figure out if that card is actually worth running or not. Usually the cards that can fit into more categories are going to be the better ones that you're going to try to prioritize. But the acronym that I lifted is going to be BREAD. So B stands for bombs. These are usually your win conditions and high impact cards. R is going to stand for removal. This is the ability to disrupt the opponent and clear out problematic cards to make it easier for you to win. E is going to be evasion. These are your defensive cards, or cards that have some nice built-in protections that make it harder for the opponent to win. A is going to be aggro. These are your general offensive cards. And D is going to be duds. These are going to be the cards you never want to use because they're just that bad, unusable, or just don't function properly. So when it comes to bombs, the set actually has a high amount of bombs because of just the added influx of new cards because the set is a larger set. So bombs are usually going to end up being your high-level Digimon, not all the time, and they're going to be the cards that are going to swing the game in your favor, if not going to help you win the game almost on the spot. Removal, as I kind of already mentioned before, is going to help you remove those problematic Digimon and problematic cards off the field, and Digimon has a couple of different ways that we could try to remove cards. There's both hard removal and soft removal. Hard removal can basically be boiled down to, can this ability actually get rid of that Digimon from the field in any way, shape, or form? And soft removal is basically going to stack a debuff or make the opponent's card less efficient in some way, shape, or form. Then when it comes to evasion, as I kind of already mentioned, these are your defensive cards and defensive abilities like Reboot, Armor Purge, Evade, Barrier, just to try to make it your Digimon that much harder for the opponents to deal with. It doesn't necessarily limit themselves to just these types of abilities, because Blocker and Redirecting are also two very powerful defensive tools on top of cards with effects that could de-incentivize the opponent from doing something specific in particular. When it comes to the aggro cards, these are usually going to be the cards that have really good efficient stats or abilities that help boost your Digimon to deal more damage or hit higher DP thresholds than they normally would be, to allow you to extend what the card is even capable of. So the on-play abilities and on-delete abilities and other ways that the cards can protect themselves are just any bonuses if they have them. And then when it comes to duds, Digimon in terms of the limited environment is not something the game is designed around, so we do get cards that are actually fundamentally useless if you don't have the card that you could pair it up with, or if the card is just that bad that you just can't functionally run it or warrant running it, which the game does have in strides, just because the way that sets are designed usually is asking for cards from other sets, or the way that the game is designed being around archetypes. If you just don't see that card, the other card doesn't work, or work as well, and that makes it less efficient to use, meaning that there's probably better cards that you want to prioritize. So when it comes to the Digitamas of the set, we have more Digitamas of the set compared to other pre-releases, but not all of them are going to be good. The majority of them actually are pretty good though. So the ones that I'm highlighting here are going to be the best out of all of the Digitamas, and they all have some pretty decent generic style of effect that's not necessarily super hard in order to fulfill its condition or use. Then, when it comes to the Tamers, this set has a lot of Tamers. Not only just because it's being combined with another set, so there's obviously going to be some extra added Tamers from there, but because this set is designed around hybrids, hybrids obviously want the usage of Tamers, so there's just more Tamers in the set to be able to help fulfill those archetypal conditions. So when it comes to the set, there's actually 11 Tamers, and they're all pretty decent, but the one thing that you kind of have to pay attention to is going to be the color spread. Because of how Hybrid Digimon works, they like to evolve on specific color Tamers, so understanding what the higher amounts of colors in usage are means that certain hybrids are going to functionally be better than others. So when it comes to the overall color breakdown of Tamers in the set, there's 4 total red Tamers, 3 total black Tamers, 3 total yellow Tamers, 2 total green Tamers, 2 total blue Tamers, and 2 total purple Tamers. So that's just one thing that you might want to take into account when deciding what Tamers you want to run, if you're going to be running any at all. And the best rule of thumb is the Tamers with the most generic abilities are usually going to be the ones that you want to try to prioritize, because they're going to be the easiest to use. So with this set specifically, the best piece of advice is kind of what I just echoed, where generic cards in general are going to be the better performing cards overall. This is because the cards don't have any specific requirements or synergies that it needs to set up in order to make the card actually useful or kind of good. So the more generic a card is, the easier it is going to be to use, which adds extra value for the deck because it just means that your deck is going to flow overall better, not requiring those specific pieces to be lined up in order for your cards to function. This set also does have a few Ace Digimon, but it doesn't have an overwhelming amount of them, and the majority of them are going to be on the higher level and on the higher rarity. So it's not like you're going to be seeing them that often, but it isn't impossible to see them, and that makes them less predictable in terms of when they're going to be coming out, so they're going to have a higher impact when they're going to be used as a result. So this set also does have a lot of archetypes, which are going to be hybrids, royal base, composite, knights, and aquatic, just as the main ones that have a decent amount of representation. that you could reasonably try to build around. So there are some higher than average amount of Tamers, as I kind of already said, but because there's a higher amount of Tamers, that means that there's actually going to be a lower amount of options. And because options is usually where a lot of utility and removal comes from, that just means that we don't have as many, and the ones that we do have this time are actually really bad. Like, bad in the terms of they're trying to ask for more specific things, and they're trying to be played with multiple different colors, so they're just functionally harder to use, and as a result, I probably wouldn't recommend using any options in the set, and I would try to put more emphasis and priority on the Tamers and the Digimon, considering at least on the Digimon, that's where 100% of the removal is going to be, which is going to be extremely important, considering this set has a lot of defensive tools and defensive abilities, so it's going to create this like interesting dynamic where you're trying to out-tempo and out-value the opponent. So when it comes to how pre-release metas generally play out, there's usually two main approaches to how people have generally played. And that's going to be a Rookie Rush aggro style, where you're trying to play as low to the ground as possible and just try to rush the opponent down, or you're going to be playing this more tempo and value game. The Rookie Rush style meta is only going to be viable when there's a lack of defensive and removal tools, which this set has enough to really de-incentivize that style of play. So that's kind of where I'm thinking you generally would want to play it safe and try to build more towards that stack, tempo, and value game. And then when it comes to just some other general tips, usually you want to try to make sure that you're both prepared physically and mentally. So physically, you want to make sure that you bring enough water, snacks, and supplies, and mentally, you're just going to want to try to relax and have fun. This is supposed to be a more new player friendly type of experience, and it's not necessarily meant to be hyper sweaty. It's not like the prizes are going to be that good, unless your LGS makes the prizes that good, to really incentivize that style of play. So we're all just trying to have fun, and that's supposed to create that more relaxed environment. Don't get worked up if something isn't working out. You could always change it mid-game and post-game. So there are some important things that you generally want to try to ask yourself to figure out if your deck is actually working or not, and that is questions like, what does my card pool look like in terms of what cards do I want to try to prioritize in value over others to try to formulate my deck? What my win con actually is, so how I'm actually trying to plan on winning and closing out games, and how I can try to get there as best as I possibly can. What are my synergies, especially cross-color and cross-archetype synergies, so that way you know what cards are going to be working well with one another, and what cards should I be prioritizing based on the pool of cards that I have, and potentially for sideboarding the opponent I'm going to be playing up against. So those are just some other general tips in terms of making sure you're as prepared for these types of events as you possibly can. But that's all the general advice that I have, and all I could really say for this video. So feel free to tell me your thoughts and to tell me how your pre-releases went down in the comments below. And if you found this video to be helpful and informative, make sure to leave that like and subscribe, and don't forget to hit that notification bell so you know when my next videos go live. And with that, I hope everyone has a wonderful pre-release. I wish the best of luck to all of you, and I hope to see you all in the next video.